When I hear about physical abuse, I think of hitting. I think of hitting and punching. So I thought that this wasn't violent enough to be abuse. I thought that it was just like a constant accident that he kept hurting me, but he's not hitting me. And it didn't start as something that he did to hurt me. He had this habit of biting, which is so weird to me now, but he...
What if she's like really tasty? That's why he kept biting.
Said that he had this habit since he was a kid, and even his mom said that that was true. And he said it was just affectionate, and that might have been... I mean, I think that might have been true maybe at the start, but I also feel that I have good reason to believe that every part of it was a lie, but that's just my personal opinion. And I had no problem with just biting. That isn't even the most uncommon thing. But he did mention something early that I should have taken as a red flag. And he wanted to make sure that I was okay with him biting me because he didn't want me to come back later and say that he abused me, which I thought was really...
Okay, see, it's adding... In retrospect, looking back at this, I didn't cover these allegations way back in the day. I was more focused on the allegations between George Not Found and that one chick. I forgot her name, unfortunately. I really should remember her name. But what all of these allegations had in common back in the day is that they all add this, like, very, very specific flavor when going into exactly what it is that they want to, like, bring forward. So she'll say like buzzwords or buzz sentences to make you feel or think a certain way. Like, oh, I should have taken this as a red flag from the very beginning. I should have seen this as a red flag from the very beginning because he was plotting against me for the future in case I ever came out and it didn't sound like he was abusive, so that I wouldn't assume that he was being abusive. I don't know if this is one of those situations where perhaps she like convinced herself that she was being abused over something that realistically from an outside perspective you probably could categorize as abuse, but within their own relationship Wilbur Soot probably wasn't like intending to actually cause harm to Shubble. He probably wasn't intending to be malicious. He probably wasn't intending to, but again, that's besides the point because abuse can happen in all forms and manners without the perpetrator, the one obviously being like the abuser, without the abuser actually knowing that what they're doing is abusive. But looking back at it now, after all this time has passed, I think people might have treated Wilbur too harshly, but I guess we'll find out more.
And I needed him to really stop biting so hard. I didn't like it, and I tried telling him over and over again because he wasn't actually trying at all to not hurt me. But he said he would try at first. And then he started saying things like, it was my pain tolerance that was too low, or I'm exaggerating how much it actually hurts. He's not even biting that hard.
I also want to make it clear, like, I don't want to... Who knows what the dynamics were between the relationship? If anything, she might be downplaying what she actually went through. She might be downplaying what she actually went through, for all we know. Or she might be completely accurate, or she might be exaggerating. So I don't want to, like, I know at the time, a lot of people were like making fun of her, saying as well. There were a couple of people that were making fun of her, saying, "Oh, he was just biting. Did he know? Was he actually like abusing you?" People were, I understand. There were some people like genuinely trying to throw away anything that she had to say, but it's entirely possible that she might have actually had some concerns that would have been valid to her in that moment, that perhaps might have been misinterpreted as being more extreme, when in reality I think she's being honest. She's obviously doing a little bit of flavor, but I mean, that's I guess I can chalk that up to not her being manipulative, but rather a product of the times, where every allegation that gets delivered is usually delivered in a way where you can sound the most convincing,
being dramatic. But his biting escalated to a point where I was covered in bruises all over my arms, and they hurt, and he would poke at them for fun. And he even felt so comfortable showing off my bruises that he had caused to our friends because he would bite me so hard by accident. By accident, he would even joke that it looked like he abused me. And eventually he did acknowledge how bad it looked that I was covered in bruises all the time. So he stopped biting my arms as often, and he started biting my legs instead. And it was in the last couple of months of the relationship that every time he bit me, it was until I needed to use this safe word. It had become his benchmark for when to stop. Only once I was definitely hurt, which meant I was being hurt every single day, multiple times a day, for all of the days that we spent together in person. And when I asked him to stop again, this time he said, "This is who he is. He isn't going to change." Those were his words. And I remember a lot of specifically his words about certain things, especially at the end, because I'm good at remembering words.
I don't think he denied this either, to be clear. I don't think he denied this either. Okay, now that I'm remembering this more, now that my mind is being refreshed, I think you could call this a form of abuse. Because she was seriously laying down, she was seriously laying down her boundaries, saying, hey, you're hurting me, it's starting to look really, really bad. And then after I'm hurt, you continue to hurt me by poking me. So here's what I need you to do. I need you to slow the fuck down and mind my boundaries. But rather than him minding her boundaries, he would just be like, nah, this is who I am. I'm going to keep doing it. And if it hurts too much on your arms, then I'm going to do it another place on your body. I think you could call that abusive. I think it is fair that is somewhat abusive. But now we have to measure out whether he was doing this because he was being selfish and absolutely wanted to hurt her, or didn't care that she was being hurt for his own personal pleasure, for his own gain, for his own satisfaction. Was he doing it because he enjoyed the pain aspect that she was receiving? Was he doing for like any other potentially malicious reason or negative reason? Now we have to measure that aspect out. Or was he genuinely or was that a genuine way that he was conditioned to show affection? And he didn't know any other way. So he just refused to change that aspect. I mean, regardless, if he didn't stop, it's very telling. That's not to imply that he would be a rapist of any kind, but it's more to say that somebody who doesn't respect your boundaries is probably nobody that you should want around you in the first place.
And especially his wording, I did
this to my BF. I failed to see the problem.
Really good at remembering because he was constantly contradicting himself, and I would notice, but most of the time it wasn't worth picking a fight over. But he would fight me on it sometimes because I would point it out, and he would.
So it seems okay. So I was wrong. It appears that she was definitely attempting to communicate, and based on Wilbur Soot's response, a little bit after, he pretty much I don't think he was. I genuinely don't believe, because this was another narrative that was going on. People were saying that Wilbur Soot crumbled under pressure to his fans, and that he gave out an apology to try to be complacent to his fans because all of these people are incredibly soy. No, I think that he released his apology from a place of genuine, heartfelt. He knew he fucked up, rather than he was pressured into giving it by his fans.
Insist that he had never said the thing that he said. He definitely did say, and then he would say something like, "How are you so sure you're remembering correctly? Why are you always right?" And he definitely said the things that I heard him say, and other people heard him say. So he had now at this point weaponized the safe word and was using it to ensure that I was hurt, and on a constant basis. And he wasn't sorry anymore. I couldn't even tell you the last time he had apologized for doing it anymore, because now sometimes he would bite me and I would yell out the safe word because it hurt so bad, and he'd clamp down even harder. And just for a second, just for good measure, before letting go. And sometimes I'd say the safe word and he'd grind his teeth down on my skin. And sometimes he'd smile after. Like a gloating grin. And during this time, I was filled with so much anxiety all the time that I was...
Yeah, it might be incredibly unorthodox, but this does sound like a form of abuse. And if it appears that they even compromised on said boundaries and have come up with a way to allow it sometimes and then deny it other times by utilizing a safe word. And then when she utilizes said safe word to prevent any damage being done to her because it genuinely hurt and she was genuinely being perturbed by it, he would ignore that boundary, go even further, and then continue to agitate her. To repeated extents. Who knows how repeated it was. But I would definitely say that this is a form of abuse. Even if it's unorthodox. I don't know why I'm saying a form. You could argue that this is definitely abuse.
Constantly nauseous, gagging daily, on occasion throwing up because of the pit that was in my stomach. I never told him about that, though. I was going and running away quietly to throw up in the toilet and rejoin our group of friends. But I felt so unwanted and ignored. And I would tell him that, and then he would reassure me that he wanted to be together and he loved me. He loved me more than I loved him, even. He would always insist that was true, I love you more. But he was like...
Which is a type of emotional manipulation, which happens in all forms of abusive relationships like this.
Really serious about it. And looking back, I do believe that the way I was swept off my feet at the beginning of this relationship was 100% love bombing.
Yeah, I wouldn't go as far as to potentially say that she was love bombed, but I wouldn't be opposed to it. Because typically in abusive relationships like this, somebody gets head over heels for somebody. They think that the person that they're falling in love with is like the best person in the world, couldn't do any wrong. It's going to be the perfect thing for them.
Actually never spoke to each other outside of group chats. We were in together when like a handful of times throughout the whole time that we knew each other, but did not talk to each other. So I wouldn't have even called him my friend until he found out I was single, waited a few weeks to reach out, and then we started a friendship. And then that friendship turned romantic. And then he made these huge romantic gestures. He wrote me the most beautiful love letter that I had ever read. He called me his soulmate. He talked about forever 1 month in. He told me he hadn't been in a relationship in 5 years. He thought he could never find love again before he met me. He said he wanted someone to grow with. He wanted to be a dad. He had all his names picked out. And I didn't have a...
I don't think this is exclusive. I don't think this is exclusive to somebody who is just manipulative or abusive. I think this is just a general trait of somebody who doesn't like understand human connection. Right? Like, you're not gonna meet somebody first day in and then immediately start like saying, oh, here are my dreams, aspirations, what I hope to accomplish, what I'm all about, what I love, what I don't love, what I'm passionate about, blah 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 blah. Right? That's typically the signs of somebody who's just not well socialized.
Preference, because my feeling of it is if the timing is right and with the right person, I could. But
that's also typically the signs of somebody who's just very insecure.
I'm not super pressed about it. But I started opening my mind up to the idea with him because it seemed so important to him. And I kept trying to talk to him to figure out where he was later on when I could tell things like were declining. And now all of a sudden he's telling me...
Yeah, she obviously felt like a level of attraction. Wanted to reciprocate because she enjoyed.
And I'm of the opinion that in a relationship, there are a few things that you are not actually allowed to change your mind without letting your partner know. I think that kids is one of them. It wasn't even important to me.
Yes, there's like very, very important negotiations to a relationship, such as, kids that you just can't change your mind on, because that's probably one of the reasons as to why you guys fell in love with each other, why you guys got into a relationship in the first place. I know that a lot of people date, especially people my age, they date with the expectation that they're not going to have kids. And I actually have seen some relationships crumble over somebody wanting to have kids, but another person not being prepared for the responsibility that comes with it.
I think marriage is one of them, so I brought that up next. And I asked if he still wanted marriage. He said he wanted to marry me. And then he said, now, I'm not quote, I'm not the commitment guy, you know that. In fact, he was telling me the exact opposite every day. He would tell me he still wanted to be together. He wanted to work on all of the problems. He wanted me at the end of everything. He did not want to break up. He made that very clear. And I have, though, caught him in lies before, but usually it was small stuff, and Yeah,
it sounds to me like Wilbur is the type of individual that's not really well socialized, doesn't really understand what it's like to be in a relationship, finally got the chance of dating somebody that's obviously way over his fucking league, right? Which is typical for people that are in positions of, like, popularity like this, where it's incredibly easy to come up and be really appealing due to your like social status. It seems to me that most of this probably occurred because he was like a very socially inept idiot, which isn't an excuse. If somebody's communicating with you and you're not reciprocating the communication and telling you, hey, maybe you shouldn't do this anymore, and then you oblige and say, okay, fine, maybe I won't do this anymore so that we can have a comfortable relationship and we don't have any problems, then it is more than fine to have a problem against that person. It is more than fine to say, hey, fuck right off. You're being a fucking like jerk to me. Get away. I'm going to break up with you. It is perfectly fine to do that. But it appears that Wilbur Soot just wasn't capable.
And now suddenly he is dumping all of these problems that he has been having feelings about all of this time later. At one point he said he's been feeling this way a couple months. At another point he says he's been feeling this way for 6 months, immediately contradicting himself in the same conversation. And with no time to do anything about it. I arrived, never mind, I'm going to get to something later, but I literally arrived for 3 days.
Yeah, it seems to me that Wilbur Soot's biggest problem is that he's an emotionally immature idiot who also happens to be a socially inept idiot that wasn't really capable of communicating these boundaries. And when these boundaries were heavily when she heavily tried to set these boundaries, he didn't reciprocate because he does have like these selfish tendencies, which I would call a form of like manipulation and definitely abusive. But now we have to measure out the severity of the abuse. Could he have learned from this relationship in the future, potentially, and not exhibit the same type of behavior around another woman? Probably, more than likely. If this is also like one of the first romantic experiences that he's had in a long time, it's also probably like a learning experience that he could definitely grow from.
Conversation to happen and then leave. My cat just woke up and she's not.
Why are we revisiting this? Because he posted an update.
So no time to fix any of the problems all of a sudden because there are 3 days before he leaves. And he insisted he did not want to break up. So he was expecting me to have a solution somehow magically, and I gave a number of solutions.
Yeah, he was panicking. He was panicking because he wasn't used to this level of confrontation. He wasn't used to this level of like compromise. He wasn't used to this level of just like understanding your partner, because he's probably not romantically experienced, and he doesn't understand that sometimes when it comes to talking to an individual, if they set their boundaries and don't want you to cross their boundaries, you have to understand that you shouldn't be crossing said person's boundaries or expectations. Because if you want to be in a committed friendship or in a committed relationship, you should respect somebody's boundaries, right? And if you don't, then you have no entitlement to said individual. You have no entitlement to like receiving any sort of reciprocation, respect, friendliness, or romantic interest from said individual, unless you're completely selfish and feel entitled to said aspects.
That would have a way forward for us to be together, but he refused to make any compromise whatsoever. And he said that the relationship was starting to feel like a responsibility towards the end. Also his words.
A relationship is a responsibility, is a thing. A relationship is always a responsibility. When you want to be friends with somebody, and I'm not talking about like friends as in like, oh, somebody that you just like, call a friend in passing because you guys hang out and talk to each other and play games and whatnot. If you want to be like a genuine friend with somebody, a genuine friend, somebody that you respect and that you expect to be there with you, by your side, and this is even before the relationship, having a friendship is a responsibility to not like fucking bullshit them, a responsibility to not treat them like shit, a responsibility to not like go out of your way to do things that they don't like or respect. A relationship, it's like that, but tenfold. Now it is your responsibility to make sure that your expectations are being met and that their expectations are being met. And if you can't compromise on said expectations, then you are bound to have either a very messy relationship or a very short-lived relationship.
He had grown resentful, which I also pointed out that there was no reason. Like, there was no reason to feel that way, and he admitted that there was no reason for him to feel that way either. I think that it was because I'm someone who can communicate how I feel. But I don't know. I have a lot of theories and reasons why I believe things happen the way that they did and why he was lying all of the time. But he was resentful of me, was causing me physical harm every day, multiple times a day, despite me telling him over and over again to stop. He wasn't going to change, and he wasn't going to end the relationship. He was going to keep hurting me, and it was possibly going to escalate even further. So I broke up with him, and I didn't even want to. Because I couldn't even see for such a long time after what it really was that had happened, that he had abused me. And in fact, we left things as we want to be friends, and he can never imagine, not speak.
I mean, based on her recount of what she's saying, I would consider this a manipulative, abusive relationship. If everything she's saying is true, which Wilbur didn't even contest, I would call this a pretty abusive, like manipulative relationship. And it's not like she's bringing forward any like incredibly, what's the word that I'm looking for here? She's not directly like implying. She's not directly making the statement that, oh, Wilbur Soot is fucking evil. He raped me and he tried to fucking kill me and like, beat me over the head with hammers or bricks. No, she's not like making that allegation. I think, matter of fact, from what I recall in the past, a lot of people made fun of Shovel. To an extent, even I kind of made fun of Shovel back then. But now, I can actually like see it from her point of view. I can understand her a little bit better in retrospect and be like, you know what? I sympathize. I understand her issues. I understand her complaints. I think part of the problem is that this was around the time when multiple other allegations weren't being taken seriously. There was like the Idubbbz George Not Found drama, and Idubbbz definitely. Idubbbz, like all of the evidence shows it. Idubbbz was definitely trying to like inflame the issue or inflame the complaint a lot worse than what it actually was. And George Not Found got labeled as a fucking rapist. Idubbbz was definitely like inflaming her language to try to paint George Not Found in the worst way possible. So when I compare that to this situation, it appears that like Shovel is being quite honest. It appears that she's not like trying to over egg what it is exactly that she's laying down. She's literally saying, "Hey, I had a relationship with this individual. We broke up. This is why we broke up. It was very hurtful. I didn't want it to happen at first. I really tried. I would consider this abusive, but I don't like hate the guy. He probably hates me, but I don't hate the guy."
Speaking to me again. And then he never spoke to me again. Outside of like a couple of exchanges where I needed to ask for my clothes to be shipped. So at least I got my clothes back.
Yeah, Shovel's situation was before Idubbbz, but remember, this was around the time when like Dream was being like, you know, getting allegations left, right, and fucking center from so many different fucking like fake accounts as well.
Hundreds of dollars of things from my office were trashed without a word. And I didn't block him till 10 months later because I think
I'm siding with Shovel on this one a lot. Like she seems genuine because she's even saying, I think he does have some issues. I think he was like bottling up all of these issues, and I would have liked to understand, but like he just never communicated with me. He just never talked to me.
He had stopped giving anything to the relationship, and he said that why was because he was just waiting for things to change on their own. He said
which doesn't happen. Yeah, this guy. Okay, all right, that settles it. That settles it for me. If that's true, that settles it for me. This Wilbur Soot guy was a terminally online, chronically indoors individual. Never went outside, never socialized, never talked to anybody, didn't know anything about having like any actual genuine relationship or connection. Thus, he didn't know how to reciprocate or compromise. So he would just act the only way he knew how. And the only way he knew how, unfortunately, was not with maturity, but just to be what sounds to me a self-centered, egotistical asshole. So would I call the relationship abusive? Yeah. Would I call it manipulative? Yeah.
Have the time or energy anyway to do the things.
Would I call him expressively malicious? Probably not.
That I was asking for, but then would constantly make any bit of time and energy for anybody and anything but me. And he would say he wanted more quality time. So then I would try to arrange things for us to do online because we were long distance, but then he would complain that he doesn't want to spend all of his time on the computer anymore. And then we'd be there in person and all he wants to do is stay inside, play games on his computer, watch movies. He doesn't want to go out.
Yeah, based? Let my man be a neat. Hold on. How old is Wilbur Soot? I have a meme for this. Wilbur Soot is 28 years old. He would have been 27 years old. Perfect. You don't understand. I'm only 29. 29 is young. This is Wilbur Soot. Unironically. And this is like Shovel.
He lived in filth like I have never seen. And I've seen filth. This was the worst. He would spill things on the floor and literally never clean them up. He got
okay. Quadrupling down on the socially inept, emotionally like stunted. Yeah, I'm just doubling down on that. I don't have to repeat it again. I'm just quadrupling down on it. I'm like 100% sure that this guy is a socially inept, terminally online, chronically indoors.
Ant infestation once, and wasn't going to do anything about it because he said bugs are normal in British houses. So I had to buy ant killer, and he wouldn't clean his bathroom for months.
Oh, and he's British?
But
is he
British?
British?
Complain about how bad it smelled, and I would tell him that's mold. It's mold. He complained about being tired all the time too, which I don't know if that was a lie or not, but mold will do that too. But he would insist that it wasn't somehow without having cleaned in months. But it's not mold. When I met him, he was washing his clothes without detergent. Just it wasn't using that at all. And I don't know for how long before I met him. He was just running it with water and then hanging it on his filthy kitchen cabinets. And I felt bad.
Dude, this guy is such a fucking failure. This guy is just such a life like, what do you call this? You got girl failures. What would you call this? A boy failure? How could I describe this guy besides like calling him a neat?
Felt bad because I felt like he needed someone to help him learn how to be cleaner. I thought he just didn't know how. And I listened to all of the struggles of his upbringing and I was like, he just doesn't know how. Someone just needs to show him. And then I found out that he said he doesn't clean at all when I'm not there because he just waits for me to get there to do it. I was doing all of the cleaning and laundry for him. Also, I had a separate bathroom. I want to make that clear. I wasn't using that bathroom. I had a separate bathroom that I cleaned for myself. I had cleaning supplies. I don't think he even actually knew I had cleaning supplies in there. But I had my own bathroom. All the cleaning, all the laundry, all of it.
My conclusion is that the guy is just a complete failure of a human being. And he probably did, maybe intentionally or unintentionally, abuse Shubble. And he was more than likely a manipulative individual as well. In the past week, a series of allegations have been made over my conduct from an ex-girlfriend. I want to emphasize that although I feel it fair to offer my perspective, this person's feelings are completely valid. I have taken my time sharing the statement as I wanted to process and respond respectfully and with a hope to gain a deeper understanding for the situation. During our relationship's final months, I regrettably became slobbish, disrespectful, and selfish. These actions caused a lot of pain to my ex-girlfriend, and I've since sought therapy to address these behaviors, making significant lifestyle changes to rectify my past actions. I have come to realize how much my past behavior hurt this person, but I truly, compassionately believe I have made great strides from the person I once was and hope I can continue to grow and improve on this trajectory. The allegations of abuse, particularly in the form of biting, deeply shocked me. I mean, yeah, it is kind of a shocking and like maybe a sort of like disproportionate allegation, but I think she's well within her right to feel that way. Throughout our relationship, I understood from our numerous conversations and text message exchanges on the subject this behavior was consensual. Yeah, it may have been consensual, but she definitely feels like you may have crossed the line sometimes. Playful and reciprocally enjoyed. I truly believe these personal message exchanges reflect mutual affection and understanding. Out of respect for her, I choose not to publish them, and I emphasize my perspective is not shared to diminish or invalidate anyone's feelings. Instead, I shared in the hope that I can offer a genuine, fair, and relevant insight into my understanding of the situation. While I may perceive our interactions differently, I recognize that this person has processed and expressed feelings of hurt I want to extend my sincerest apologies for any pain that I caused. I want to extend my sincerest apologies for any pain that I caused. I am fully committed to understanding and addressing her concerns going forward. I hope my perspective sheds light on the situation without detracting from its message. I am dedicated to earning and maintaining the trust of those around me, and I hope I continue to be held to these high standards I wish to maintain and maintain. Will. So I think it is more than fair to say that Wilbur Soot is probably being fairly criticized by Shubble. She wasn't being like directly dishonest, as I mentioned earlier. She probably did have like a lot of grievances that it was well within her right to air out, and I think Wilbur Soot understood this based on her response and responded accordingly as well. He probably wanted to like soften the blow of the abuse allegations, which I could understand, right? A little bit of self-preservation. But I'm pretty sure that even he understands that he might have crossed the line at some points. So that's my opinion on that. Let's see the update video.
I hope you've all been well. This video is going to be a bit of a different one for me. I've never been very good at update videos, but this channel's been inactive for so long, I thought one was probably well overdue. So I wanted to take this opportunity to quickly talk about what I've been up to the past couple of years, what you can expect from me going forward, and of course, future YouTube content. I've been really quite busy these past few months, so I haven't really had that much to show you guys anyway. But as most of you probably already know, that isn't the only reason I've been so quiet. If you don't mind, I'd like to take a quick minute to touch on that before I move into what the future holds. There's been a lot of different clashing labels and opinions about me on the internet over the past year, the loudest of which on both sides of the fence have been quite unhealthy, stemming from accusations made about me from just over a year ago. And look, I'm not here to drop any bombshells. I don't want to reopen any old discussions. I responded to the situation in February of last year, and I still stand by everything I said in that statement. I understand it was misinterpreted by some people, probably due to my wording, and I know some people are still looking for clarity, especially nowadays where personal transparency is more common amongst content creators than it's ever been before. However, this clarity, the clarity I've offered to my close friends and my family, would mean publicly sharing deeply personal parts of my private life and my relationships with the internet. I've never been comfortable doing that, and I don't believe that should be the cost of being understood. All I can say is that the labels that have been attributed to me by social media are not true, and I don't accept them. I don't believe in this expectation that content creators should use their platforms to attack and defend, and I definitely don't think that's how serious accusations should be handled. I felt this way for a really long time now.
Yeah, I don't think I don't think that content creators should attack or defend. I don't think that content creator... Let me translate that for you. I don't think that content creators should be able to criticize allegations that may come forward on the internet at any point in time. Great stuff.
Having seen other content creators go through similar situations, and I know it's not a perspective that's going to satisfy...
I've seen other content creators get accused of stuff and have been completely disavowed in the court of public opinion. Interesting.
By everyone, but it's one I can get behind, and I hope that makes sense to you. None of this is me trying to dig up or dwell on the past here. I would just...
And why make the video? Unironically, why make the video?
Feel very strange if I carried on without at least acknowledging the past year. Because all I can do now is move forward, and I hope you enjoy what I've been working on.
Alright. This video is mostly pointless. The only substantial stuff that he added was in like the first 2 minutes, or like the first minute and a half. So what's the conclusion? Is Wilbur Soot an abuser? That is entirely up to your definition of abuser and what you would define an abuser. Was he engaging in toxic tendencies and potential boundary crossing in his relationship that really made Shubble uncomfortable? Absolutely. He doesn't even deny that. Was Shubble being honest in her statement? Yes. Everything points to the idea that yes. Is she within her right to feel like she was abused? I would have to say so. I would have to agree that she is well within her right to feel that she was abused. Like, and I'm saying that fairly. I'm saying that unbiasedly. Because I was prepared to go into this going like, no, Shubble's another woman liar taking advantage of the circumstances back then when George Not Found and what's it called? Dream. And everybody was being like accused of insane stuff. No. I think that she was being quite honest. She didn't even drop like an incredibly super inflammatory allegation with the express purpose of like, destroying this guy's career. Her like statement seemed very genuine. It seemed very, very, what's the word? I don't know. It just didn't feel motivated. It didn't feel motivated in any way. It seemed like she genuinely like sat down, said, here's why we broke up. This was my experience. This is how I feel. And he kind of aligned with that. Wilbur aligned with that. She wasn't being like malicious in her like in her response or like in her statement like to like like other allegation cases we have seen in the past. It seems like both of these individuals just had like a very messy relationship where Shubble unfortunately just ended up like getting the brunt of the negativity, and she just wanted to talk about it, which was largely misinterpreted by people back in the day. I think Wilbur Soot is probably not that great of a person. Probably not that great of a person in terms of being in a relationship with. Externally, who knows? He seems to be like a very career-driven individual. I wouldn't call him an abuser myself personally. But I think, as I said already, she is well within her right to feel that she was abused, in my opinion. But with that being said, that's the Wilbur Soot update. That's the Wilbur Soot retrospective.